For decades, we have been conditioned to believe that daily bathing is synonymous with hygiene, health, and self-care. From childhood, we hear that bathing every day is an essential, almost sacred habit. However, when we reach old age, this ingrained custom may not only cease to be beneficial but also pose health risks. Little is said about it, but after the age of 70, the body undergoes profound changes, and what was once a healthy routine can become an invisible burden on the body. The truth is that daily bathing at this stage of life is often sustained more by social conventions than by real biological needs, and this is where the myth that has guided us for so long begins to unravel. If you're new here, leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any videos. The first thing we need to understand is that the skin of older people changes dramatically over the years. At 70, the skin is no longer the same resistant and flexible barrier it once was. It becomes thinner, drier, and less able to regenerate. The sebaceous glands, responsible for producing the sebum that maintains the skin's natural moisture, significantly reduce their activity. As a result, aging skin has a natural tendency to dryness, itching, and microcracks. Daily bathing, especially with hot water and conventional soaps, intensifies this process alarmingly. The skin's protective lipid layer is constantly removed without time to recover, and when this layer breaks down, it opens the door to infections, inflammation, and even chronic wounds. In addition to the skin microbiome itself, a universe of beneficial bacteria that live on the surface of our body, is negatively affected. These bacteria are invisible allies of our immune system. They fight pathogenic microorganisms, regulate inflammatory processes, and keep the skin in balance. When we bathe excessively, especially with antibacterial products, these microbial communities suffer profound imbalances, which can further weaken skin health and increase vulnerability to disease. Instead of protection, daily bathing may be promoting cleansing that goes beyond what is health, also eliminating what naturally protects us. Another point that is rarely discussed is the impact of daily bathing on the cardiovascular and metabolic systems of older people. Older adults often face challenges such as unstable blood pressure, arrhythmias, circulatory problems, or muscle weakness. The thermal shock of coming into contact with very hot or very cold water, or even the physical effort of performing the bathing routine, such as stepping into a slippery shower, standing for long periods, or dealing with high temperatures, can trigger unwanted reactions. Dizziness, falls, fainting, and even heart attacks can occur in situations of physical stress within the bathroom environment. It is precisely for this reason that geriatric institutions in several countries have been recommending a review of these daily habits, adapting them to the new needs of the senior body. There is also an important psychological dimension to consider. Many older adults believe that by not showering daily, they are neglecting themselves or losing their dignity. This is rooted in decades of cultural conditioning that has linked bathing frequency to self-esteem and social respect. However, it is vital to understand that adapting self-care to a new stage of life is not abandonment. It is intelligence. It is preservation. It is necessary to make room for a new type of hygiene, gentler, more respectful of the body's limits, more in line with the biological reality of those who have already lived 7 decades. Adjusting this routine is not a sign of weakness, but a gesture of wisdom and self-love. Many experts argue that in the absence of excessive sweating, incontinence, or specific situations that require thorough cleaning, bathing can be done every other day or even 2 to 3 times a week without harming your health. In these cases, daily hygiene can be maintained with wet wipes, localized washing, such as the armpits, intimate areas, and feet, and special attention to hand and face care. This model, known as partial hygiene or zone hygiene, has been widely adopted in nursing homes and specialized clinics, with excellent results for both the physical health and emotional well-being of the elderly. When well guided and conducted with empathy, this paradigm shift can give the elderly a lighter, safer routine that is better suited to their real needs. If the body changes, care needs to change with it. Continuing to apply without question the same hygiene standards that worked in youth is to ignore the wisdom of aging. For those over 70, daily bathing is no longer a universal rule, but a personalized decision that must take into account factors such as skin sensitivity, mobility, history of falls, heart conditions, and even the local climate. It is essential to dispel the myth that frequency is synonymous with care. Taking care of yourself, in fact, means listening to your body and acting with compassion in the face of the changes it presents. This is conscious hygiene, not just frequent hygiene. Few people realize how delicate the skin becomes with age. After the age of 70, the largest organ in the human body, the skin, has already endured a lifetime of exposure to the sun, pollution, hormonal changes, friction, chemicals, and of course, countless hot showers. Although it seems harmless, this daily and seemingly comforting habit can hide silent dangers that profoundly affect the skin health of older adults. When we talk about the combination of aging skin and hot water, we are referring to an interaction that, day after day, compromises the integrity of a structure that is already naturally weakened by time. As we age, our skin undergoes significant changes. Its thickness decreases, collagen production is drastically reduced, and its ability to retain moisture declines. The lipid layer, which acts as a natural barrier against external agents and helps maintain hydration, becomes thinner and less efficient. This makes the skin drier, rougher, and more susceptible to cracks and lesions. When it comes into contact with hot water, this barrier is practically dissolved. The high temperature of the water removes the natural oils from the epidermis with relentless speed, further dehydrating skin that already suffers from a lack of lubrication. The result is a continuous cycle of dryness, irritation, and fragility, which often goes unnoticed until painful cracks, constant itching, and inflammation appear. In addition to severe dryness, frequent contact with hot water compromises the skin's immune response. This is because the protective layer is not limited to the physical aspect. It also houses the skin microbiome, composed of trillions of microorganisms that live in symbiosis with the human body. These microorganisms are a fundamental part of the body's natural defense, functioning as an invisible army that fights pathogens and helps regulate inflammatory processes. When hot water repeatedly invades the skin's surface, it not only removes sebum, but also interferes with the balance of this microbial community. This weakens natural protection and leaves the skin vulnerable to fungal, bacterial, and viral infections, which tend to manifest more intensely in organisms whose immune systems are already weakened by age. Another critical but often overlooked aspect is the impact that hot water can have on chronic skin conditions that are common in older adults. Conditions such as senile eczema, psoriasis, contact dermatitis, and even chronic hives can be aggravated by excessive heat and the constant removal of the lipid layer. Skin suffering from these conditions becomes even more prone to open lesions, scabs, bleeding, and a constant burning or itching sensation. The discomfort generated interferes with the quality of sleep, mood, and overall disposition of the elderly, creating a domino effect that affects other areas of physical and emotional health. In many cases, the persistence of symptoms leads to the continuous use of corticosteroid creams, which in turn have side effects when used for long periods on thin and fragile skin. There is also an additional factor that involves immediate physical risk. The heat of the water can cause superficial burns, even when it is not perceived as hot by younger adults. With advancing age, the skin's thermal sensitivity decreases. This means that older adults may not feel that the water temperature is too high until it has already caused damage. First and second degree burn injuries are more common than one might think in people over 70, especially those who live alone or have mobility issues. Healing, in turn, is slower at this stage of life, and any small injury can develop into serious infectious complications if not treated with immediate care. There is also a subjective factor that needs to be addressed delicately: the emotional comfort that a hot bath provides. Many older adults see this moment as a ritual of relaxation, relief from joint pain, and a connection to memories of their youth. Warm water seems to calm, comfort, and restore a sense of control. It is understandable that this habit is cherished. However, it is necessary to adapt this ritual to make it safe and beneficial for the aging body. This does not mean giving up bathing or turning it into a cold and uncomfortable experience, but rather adjusting the water temperature to something milder, warm, never too hot, and limiting the duration of the bath to a few minutes. In addition, using mild products specifically designed for mature skin and applying moisturizers immediately after bathing can help rebuild the protective barrier and preserve skin health. It is essential to understand that skincare in older adults goes far beyond aesthetics. It is a matter of overall health. The skin is the body's first line of defense against the outside world. If it fails, the entire body is exposed. Caring for it gently, avoiding aggressions such as excessive heat from water, is a way of respecting your body and its history. Healthy longevity depends on small conscious habits, and bathing, something so simple and everyday, can be both an ally and a silent villain, depending on how it is done. In the collective imagination, soap occupies an almost uncontested place of prestige. Its fresh scent, promises of deep cleansing, and that feeling of renewed skin after use make it a symbol of hygiene and personal care. However, what few realize is that behind this daily ritual of foam and fragrance, a relentless aggressor may be lurking, especially for those who have already lived 7 decades. For aging skin, ordinary soaps and other harsh hygiene products are not only ineffective, they are dangerous. They work silently and invisibly, corroding the delicate protective layer of elderly skin day after day and paving the way for a true dermatological collapse, which is often overlooked. At 70 years of age or older, the skin has already suffered several losses. It loses collagen, elastin, its ability to regenerate quickly, moisture, and most importantly, importantly, its natural chemical resistance. The skin's pH changes with aging, becoming more neutral, which favors the growth of harmful microorganisms when the protective barrier is broken. This is precisely where traditional soaps, sulfate-based shampoos, alcohol-based lotions, and even creams with artificial fragrances become real enemies. These products, created for younger, oilier skin, have a powerful detergent action, removing not only visible dirt but also the essential lipids that cover the epidermis. When used frequently, they leave the skin like barren soil, defenseless against the invasion of external agents. Most bar soaps found on supermarket shelves contain sodium lauryl sulfate or its derivatives, chemicals with high cleaning power but also destructive to the skin barrier. The feeling of extreme cleanliness that these products offer is not synonymous with health. It is, in fact, a silent warning that something vital has been removed from the skin. In addition, synthetic fragrances and preservatives such as parabens and phthalates are often used in these products to improve scent, durability, and appearance, but their interaction with mature skin can be catastrophic. Irritation, redness, itching, and flaking are common symptoms that, when not properly interpreted, are mistaken for allergies or unrelated health problems, when in fact they are often simply caused by inappropriate products. It is important to remember that the skin of older adults also suffers from the so-called cumulative effect. This means that even if the effects of an aggressive soap are not immediate, its continued use causes slow and constant degradation. An older adult who bathes daily with conventional soap is subjecting their skin to a silent war that takes place every day in the shower. Small cracks form, natural moisture is lost, and over time, this fragile state translates into skin diseases, recurrent infections, increased sensitivity to touch, and, in more severe cases, bacteria entering the body through open wounds that cannot heal. It is also important to note that many products designed for seniors still follow the logic of the beauty market, promising youth, eliminating odors, and offering velvety textures that delight consumers, but do not take real skin health into account. There are body lotions with high concentrations of alcohol, antiperspirant deodorants with aluminum, and shower gels with a pH that is incompatible with sensitive skin. The promise of immediate freshness and a dry feel hides the truth that these substances alter the natural chemical balance of the epidermis and hinder cell regeneration. For older adults who often already take medications that interfere with skin metabolism or have conditions such as diabetes, any minor aggression can quickly develop into a more serious clinical complication. However, there is an alternative. There are products formulated specifically for mature and sensitive skin that do not irritate or dry out the skin, and on the contrary, help to rebuild the skin's protective barrier. Soaps with a physiological pH, free of sulfates, fragrances, and dyes, are now recommended by dermatologists for people over 60. Bath oils, gentle foams, and no-rinse cleansing lotions are also good options, especially for those with reduced mobility or physical limitations. These products should be chosen carefully, looking for short, transparent formulas with recognized moisturizing ingredients such as vegetable glycerin, ceramides, colloidal oatmeal, almond oil, and shea butter. Use should be careful without exaggeration, focused more on maintaining skin comfort and health than on seeking artificial sensations of purity or freshness. Ultimately, it is about reclaiming a conscious relationship with one's own body. Aging requires new care agreements. Kinder, more attentive, more respectful. It is not about giving up hygiene, but about resizing it wisely. Soap, which for so long has been seen as a hero of cleanliness, must now give way to the understanding that, in certain contexts, it can be a villain in disguise. True care at this stage of life is not about bathing in scented foam every day, but about choosing wisely what touches your skin, because every choice made in the shower is also a choice about how to age, aggressively or with dignity. For a long time, bacteria were treated as the absolute villains of health. In commercial labels, and cleaning campaigns, we learned that eliminating 99.9% of germs was an act of protection, a way to keep the body free from disease and the environment clean. This idea, however, has been challenged by new scientific understanding, which shows us that the human body is actually a complex ecosystem inhabited by trillions of microorganisms essential to our survival. This invisible community, called the microbiome, is present in almost every part of the body, but its most visible and sensitive expression is on the skin. And as we age, the delicate balance of this microbiome becomes even more crucial to maintaining skin health, immunity, and overall well-being. The skin microbiome is made up of bacteria, viruses, fungi, and even microscopic mites that live on the skin without causing disease. On the contrary, they help protect it. Each person carries a unique composition of microorganisms, like a biological fingerprint, shaped by factors such as genetics, diet, environment, lifestyle, and hygiene habits. These microorganisms act as a living barrier, occupying spaces where pathogens could settle, competing for nutrients and secreting antimicrobial substances that hinder the growth of harmful organisms. They also play a role in regulating inflammation and communicating with the immune system, helping the body distinguish between real threats and harmless elements in the environment. At age 70 and older, the skin microbiome undergoes profound changes. Aging alters the composition of the skin. It becomes drier, less elastic, and produces less sebum, which is one of the food sources for many beneficial bacteria. In addition, hormonal changes and frequent use of medications such as antibiotics, corticosteroids, or blood pressure medications can dramatically alter microbial diversity. As a result, the community of microorganisms that protects the skin becomes less varied and therefore more vulnerable to imbalances. When this balance is disrupted, it opens the door to a host of complications such as dermatitis, recurrent fungal infections, chronic itching, exacerbated psoriasis, and even wounds that take a long time to heal. It is in this scenario that hygiene habits play a central role. Excessive cleaning, especially with hot water, harsh soaps, and antibacterial products, can be devastating to the skin microbiome. When we use these products frequently, we end up killing not only harmful microorganisms, but also those that protect us. It's like using a bomb to kill an ant. The result is sterile, weakened, and unprotected skin that is more prone to infection and less able to respond intelligently to the environment. This is particularly dangerous in older adults, whose immune systems already operate more slowly and less efficiently. The loss of this friendly skin flora can trigger a chain reaction that compromises skin integrity and even overall health. In addition, the absence of a healthy microbiome is linked to increased low-grade chronic inflammation, a subtle but persistent process that has been associated with several diseases of aging, including arthritis, type 2 diabetes, Alzheimer's, and cardiovascular disease. Inflamed skin, in turn, becomes a source of constant discomfort. Itching, burning, tightness, and blemishes become part of the routine for many older adults who are not always aware that these symptoms are directly linked to the destruction of their natural microbiota. It is as if, in trying to cleanse the body, we are also removing part of its biological intelligence. To protect this balance, we need to rethink the concept of cleansing. Hygiene should not be synonymous with sterilization, much less in old age. Taking care of the skin means allowing it to keep its microbiome intact. Using mild, alcohol-free, antibacterial-free, and pH-balanced products, Syndet soaps without detergents, natural bath oils, and cleansing lotions with prebiotic active ingredients are good alternatives. Prebiotics, in particular, are substances that feed the skin's beneficial bacteria, helping them to multiply and compete with harmful organisms. In addition, it is important to avoid excessive washing of certain areas of the body that do not sweat as much, such as the arms and legs, paying special attention to areas where there are folds or moisture accumulation, such as the armpits, groin, and feet. Another essential point is the water temperature. Warm, almost cold water is the best ally of the skin microbiota. Hydration should also be part of daily care, preferably with creams and oils without artificial fragrances, capable of nourishing the skin without interfering with its pH. These simple measures, when incorporated into your routine, help keep the skin's ecosystem balanced, preventing pathogenic microorganisms from finding space to proliferate. More than that, they restore the skin's active and intelligent barrier function, connected to the rest of the body and integrated with natural defense processes. Taking care of the microbiome is, therefore, taking care of the invisible life that protects us. It means recognizing that the human body is a living, interdependent environment and that health is not limited to what we can see. The microbial balance of the skin is one of the keys to healthier, more comfortable, and more dignified aging. By respecting this silent flora, we allow the body to function as it was designed to, autonomously, efficiently, and wisely. Few places in the home seem as harmless at first glance as the bathroom. It is a small, familiar space, often associated with moments of hygiene, tranquility, and privacy. However, for those over 70, this same environment can become one of the most dangerous places in the home. Falls in the bathroom, especially while bathing, are now one of the leading causes of serious accidents among the elderly. They happen quickly, silently, and often without warning. A small slip on the wet floor, a false move when entering the shower, a sudden dizziness when bending down to pick up the soap. It only takes seconds for a routine moment to turn into trauma, a fracture, or, in the worst cases, prolonged hospitalization. At age 70 or older, the body no longer responds with the same agility as before. Reflexes become slower, balance less stable, and muscle strength suffers significant losses. In addition, many older adults live with chronic conditions such as osteoporosis, hypertension, diabetes, or neurological problems that increase the risk of sudden imbalances. Amidst the steam from the shower, water running down the tiles, and soap making the floor slippery, the setting becomes dangerously conducive to falls. And contrary to popular belief, these falls are not merely simple accidents. They are often devastating, with long-term physical, physical, emotional, and social consequences. Hip fractures, for example, are among the most common and serious outcomes of bathroom falls. Recovery is long, painful, and often associated with loss of mobility and independence. For many older adults, a single fall can mean the end of autonomy and the beginning of a cycle of dependence, with hospitalizations, intensive physical therapy, and, in extreme cases, the transition to long-term care facilities. In addition to fractures, there are head injuries, internal contusions, and spinal injuries that can compromise motor functions. In some situations, the difficulty in getting up after a fall, combined with the isolation in which many elderly people live, leads to dehydration, hypothermia, or infections, as the person may remain on the floor for hours or even days without being able to call for help. The psychological impact should not be underestimated either. Many elderly people who suffer a fall develop what is known in medicine as post-fall syndrome. This is a state of constant fear of falling again, which leads to a voluntary reduction in physical activity, confinement to the home, and loss of confidence in one's own body. This fear immobilizes, further weakens the muscles, and paves the way for depression, anxiety, and social isolation. What starts with a slip can therefore turn into a progressive deterioration in quality of life, affecting the body, mind, and spirit. It is important to understand that many of the risk factors present in the bathroom environment are modifiable. The lack of grab bars in the shower, the absence of non-slip flooring, loose rugs, high bathtubs, or shower stalls without easy access are examples of invisible traps that directly contribute to falls. In addition, the simple act of getting in or out of the shower requires more effort than it seems. It requires balance, knee strength, motor coordination, and attention. Any distraction or muscle weakness can result in loss of control. And when you add elements such as dizziness caused by medication, low blood pressure, or vision impaired by steam, the risk intensifies even more. Taking preventive measures is not only necessary, but urgent. Installing safety bars in strategic locations, using shower seats, applying non-slip tape to the floor, and adjusting the height of showers and faucets are simple actions that can save lives. It is also essential to rethink the timing of the shower itself. Does it need to be daily? Is the person alone and safe when showering? In many cases, the presence of a caregiver during bathing, even if only to supervise, already drastically reduces the risks. More than that, it is necessary to open space for dialogue, break taboos, and recognize that caring for the elderly goes beyond medication and doctor's appointments. Safety in everyday life, especially in intimate moments, must be treated with the same care and importance. Many families, however, avoid broaching the subject for fear of appearing intrusive or believing that the elderly will lose their autonomy by accepting changes in the bathroom. But real autonomy is that which is sustained by safety. An elderly person who lives in an adapted environment with fewer risks and more support is someone who maintains their freedom for longer. Small adjustments to the space can ensure that they continue to carry out their activities with dignity and confidence. And even if it seems uncomfortable at first, the habit of rethinking bathing as a moment that requires planning and caution is a direct investment in quality of life. Thinking about falls in the bathroom is not about cultivating fear, but rather developing awareness. It is looking at the reality of aging with honesty and compassion. It is understanding that vulnerability is not synonymous with weakness, but an invitation to take careful action. The bathroom, that intimate space, needs to stop being a place of risk and become a place of welcome, comfort, and protection. And it all starts with a willingness to take a critical look at what is now routine and transform it into something kinder to those who have already traveled a long and valuable journey. The idea that daily bathing is essential for personal hygiene is deeply rooted in modern culture. From an early age, we learn that washing our bodies every day is an unquestionable obligation, as if the absence of this practice were synonymous with sloppiness, impurity, or even a lack of self-respect. However, this view ignores something essential. The human body, especially in old age, has a very different physiology from that of our youth. After the age of 70, the skin is no longer as resistant, the thermal and immune systems are more fragile, and cleaning needs change significantly. In this context, maintaining a strict daily bathing routine can be more harmful than beneficial, which is precisely why understanding and adopting healthy alternatives to traditional bathing becomes an act of wisdom and self-care. The first necessary change in perspective is to abandon the notion that daily bathing is always synonymous with health. For older adults, especially those who do not sweat excessively, who remain in clean environments with little exposure to pollutants or physical exertion, the demand for total body cleansing does not occur with the same intensity as in earlier stages of life. The senior body sweats less, produces less oil, and has a slower skin metabolism. Daily bathing, especially with hot water and inappropriate products, can compromise the skin barrier, dry out the skin, cause cracks, and consequently open the door to infections and inflammation. The practice of bathing out of habit needs to be replaced by conscious hygiene, a more tailored approach that values skin health as much as cleanliness. One of the most effective and safest alternatives to traditional daily bathing is zone hygiene, also called localized hygiene. This practice consists of cleaning only those parts of the body that actually accumulate sweat, secretions, and impurities throughout the day: armpits, intimate areas, feet, face, and hands. To do this, soft cloths moistened with warm water or mild, rinse-free cleaning solutions suitable for sensitive skin can be used. This technique, widely used in hospitals and nursing homes, has proven to be extremely effective in maintaining hygiene while protecting mature skin. It significantly reduces the risk of falls, prevents prolonged exposure to hot water, and allows the elderly to maintain their independence, even with reduced mobility. Another important alternative is the use of no-rinse cleaning products. Waterless sanitizing lotions or foams are ideal for situations where conventional bathing becomes risky or tiring. When chosen wisely, these products are gentle on the skin, pH neutral, and contain moisturizing agents that help maintain the skin's natural moisture. Unlike regular wet wipes, which often contain alcohol and strong fragrances, these lotions have been specially developed for prolonged and daily use without compromising skin integrity. They are applied with cotton or gauze, using gentle movements, respecting the direction of the skin and avoiding unnecessary friction. The ideal frequency of full baths should also be considered, which for many older adults may be 2 to 3 times a week, depending on physical condition, climate, activity level, and personal preferences. On these occasions, bathing should be planned with safety and comfort in mind. Use warm, never hot water, choose mild and moisturizing soaps, limit exposure to water, and above all, moisturize the skin immediately after bathing with appropriate creams. Post-bath moisturizing is not just an aesthetic act, but an essential step in the care routine, as it prevents dryness and strengthens the skin's natural barrier. In addition to the body, it is important to think about the environment and emotional well-being that surrounds the moment of hygiene. Transforming the care routine into a welcoming ritual with soft lighting, calm music, and products with pleasant textures can make all the difference. Bathing, or its alternative, should be a moment of reconnection with the body, not a mechanical imposition or a rushed act. For many older adults, this moment of contact with themselves has therapeutic value. Instead of being seen as just a chore, daily hygiene can become a practice of listening to the body, respecting one's own limits, and celebrating dignity at every stage of life. Adopting these alternatives also involves changing the way people around them look at them, whether family members, caregivers, or healthcare professionals. There is still a misconception that older adults who do not bathe every day are being neglected or are letting themselves go. In fact, adapting hygiene to a person's rhythm and real needs is a gesture of deep respect. It means understanding that every body ages differently, and that maintaining health requires flexibility, listening, and individualized care. Breaking with rigid patterns and embracing new ways of caring for skin and health is a path of love and responsibility. Creating a new, gentler, safer, and more personalized hygiene routine is more than a matter of comfort. It is an act of protection, prevention, and appreciation of life. By making room for alternatives to daily bathing, you are not diminishing your care. You are elevating it to a more conscious, sensitive level that is truly aligned with the needs of maturity. Because taking care of your body at 70, 80, or 90 is, above all, a way of saying that life still deserves to be touched with kindness. For many, bathing is more than a hygiene practice. It is a personal ritual, a moment of relaxation, a space of silence where the body finds some relief from the day. Over the years, this habit also becomes a symbol of autonomy, especially for those over 70. However, within this intimate and seemingly harmless moment, behaviors are hidden that, repeated day after day, can silently put health at risk. There are habits that, although culturally accepted and widely practiced, directly affect the skin, immunity, physical balance, and integrity of the aging body. The most alarming thing is that these behaviors are seen as harmless until the accumulated damage manifests itself, often too late. One of the first and most common dangerous habits is the use of excessively hot water. Many older adults feel colder than normal due to reduced peripheral circulation and slower metabolism. Therefore, they tend to prefer baths at high temperatures, seeking thermal comfort and relief from muscle pain. However, this practice weakens the skin's protective barrier, removes natural moisture, and compromises the skin microbiome, an invisible shield composed of beneficial bacteria that protects against infections. The skin, which is already thinner, drier, and more sensitive with age, age begins to show microcracks, irritation, and loss of elasticity. Very hot water can also cause drops in blood pressure, dizziness, and even fainting, making bath time a risk factor for serious accidents. Adjusting the water temperature to lukewarm and limiting shower time is a simple measure that can prevent complications that accumulate over time. The second habit that goes unnoticed is the continuous use of harsh soaps with strong fragrances, dyes, and antibacterial agents. Such products are widely advertised as effective, refreshing, or revitalizing, but in practice, for elderly skin, they are true agents of destruction. They remove essential lipids from the epidermis, cause imbalances in the skin's pH, and eliminate not only dirt, but also the microbial flora that strengthens the skin's immune system. Daily use of inappropriate soaps makes the skin susceptible to infections, flaking, dermatitis, and even hard-to-heal ulcers. In addition, these products often contain potentially irritating substances such as sodium lauryl sulfate, which over time can trigger allergic and inflammatory reactions. Choosing neutral, mild, and preferably moisturizing soaps is not a luxury. It is a preventive health measure. Another insidious habit is standing for long periods of time in the shower without any support. Many older adults, accustomed to independence, resist installing safety bars, benches, or supports in the shower. They believe that accepting these resources is an admission of frailty, when in fact it is a smart way to maintain autonomy safe. Standing for long periods on a wet surface, with blood pressure fluctuating due to the water temperature, significantly increases the risk of falls, one of the greatest health threats in old age. A fall in the bathroom can lead to fractures, loss of mobility, and in more serious cases, the total deterioration of functional independence. Installing seats and grab bars as well as non-slip mats is one of the most effective ways to make bathing a safe experience. The fourth dangerous habit is neglecting to moisturize the skin after bathing. When we get out of the shower, the skin, which has already lost part of its natural protective barrier, is more vulnerable and thirsty for moisture. However, many older adults, due to lack of information or even limited mobility, skip this essential step. Dehydrated skin dries out, itches, and cracks, and these small lesions, in addition to being uncomfortable, can be gateways for bacteria and fungi. Lack of hydration also contributes to loss of elasticity and accelerates skin aging, which is not only aesthetic but also functional. Using specific creams for mature skin, rich in emollients and free of artificial fragrances, helps restore skin balance and protect against external aggressors. Last but not least is the habit of bathing without paying full attention to one's body. Many people turn bathing into a rushed or mechanical activity. In the case of older adults, this can mean not noticing areas of the body that are being poorly washed, not noticing changes in the skin, such as spots, sores, bruises, or simply not listening to the signs of fatigue that the body sends during the process. This automatic mode when bathing is dangerous because attention to detail can be crucial for the early detection of skin diseases, poor circulation, infections, or signs of malnutrition. Being present with body awareness transforms bathing into an act of deep care, where touch, gaze, and rhythm respect the limitations and needs of the aging body. Rethinking these 5 habits does not mean giving up the pleasure of bathing, the feeling of cleanliness, or the emotional well-being it can provide. It means adapting this ritual so that it accompanies the natural transformations of life with respect and intelligence. Aging requires adjustments, not as a synonym for loss but as a sign of wisdom. Keeping the body clean is important, but keeping it intact, safe, and healthy is even more essential. The bathroom, that place of intimacy, can be both a space for care and a space of risk, and it is up to each of us with information and awareness to choose how to transform it into a true ally of longevity.